Echo, let's record. Hey, what's up guys, Smiley. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. Today we're going to be talking about the Fusion Firearms XF Pro. First and foremost, shout out to Fusion Firearms. Thank you guys so much for sending this to us for review. Let's give you guys a little bit of background on us and Fusion Firearms. A couple months ago, I reached out to them. I said, hey, I would really love to review your guys' XP pistol. That is their double stacked 1911 that accepts Glock magazines. Unfortunately, they didn't have any available to send out to creators, but they still wanted to work with us and they said, hey, we'll send you out the XF Pro. Let us see what you can do with that. I was super grateful for the opportunity, and here we are. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So once I went ahead and grabbed my XF Pro, I said, wow, there are a couple things I want to highlight on this. The very first thing I noticed was how big and detailed the box is. They kind of took their time to put some details in the box to make it look pleasing. You open up the box and you notice there's a carrying case in there. Another check right there. Some companies kind of cheap out on that, and I like to see that they didn't. When you open up the carrying case, the very first thing I noticed was a set of black panels. After that, I looked at the rest of the case and noticed there's a lot in here. But from there, I went ahead and picked up the gun and looked at it, and I was like, wow, there's a lot going on here, like a lot. So from there, I said, okay, let me go ahead and install my creature comforts to make this gun carryable for me. But before that happened, I was sitting there and I was like, this gun is screaming at me. It looks super familiar. There's just this design language about it that I've seen before, and I couldn't let it hit. Take a couple seconds and I said, oh, it's Glockish. It looks like a variant or, a cousin, a birth child of a Glock pistol. Now, we all know and love Glock perfection. It's a blank canvas. And the one issue that a lot of people, including myself, have with Glock is out of the box, it is a blank canvas. You have to do everything else for that. You have to pay extra money to send this gun off to be what you want it to be. For some people, they love that because they can go crazy with whatever design they have. For others, they just want it out of the box to be beautiful. They want it to have all the features, have a nice grip, have an optics cut, have slide cuts, the whole nine. They don't have that. The Fusion Firearms XF Pro does, right? So this is where you start looking at the gun and start saying, what do I really want, right? I want an optics cut. I want a 1913 rail. I want slide serration. I want a nice grip. I want a gas pedal. I want texture on the opposite side. All that stuff, this has. So let's go ahead and dive right into that. First thing I did, like I mentioned, was I added my creature comforts. I put an optic and a flashlight on there. When you pick up the gun, you notice it is extremely heavy, right? It doesn't feel like a regular Glock 19 or a compact pistol. It's got a lot of weight to it. It's kind of chunky. But from there, I went ahead to go install my optic. I'm running the Gideon Omega. It is a green dot. It is a circular housing. I know some people are gonna be like, why are you carrying that? It's what I like. I'm not in the business of dropping my guns. It's ran for me, and I mess with Gideon. They have a solid background. I like their warranty. I like the optic. So I installed that, and one thing I noticed when installing it was I actually do like their optic mounting system. They do use plates. It comes with an RMR and an RMSC plate. With that, right, when we talk about optics mounting systems and a plate usage, some companies don't give you additional recoil posts to reinforce that slide. They just give you a plate, 2 screws, you put the 2 screws in the plate that go to the slide, and that's it. That has been like a common failure point amongst optics mounting systems because those 2 screws are taking all the forces of the slide, and eventually it wears down. With the Fusion Firearms XF Pro, the plate itself has 2 lugs that go into the slide on top of 2 screws, adding 2 additional points for force to be distributed through. I like that. I said, okay, this is somebody thinking about the design, because now you have less chances of this plate snapping and breaking because now you have less force going just to those 2 screws. Then you pop the optic on there, put the screws in there, you're good to go. What I don't like about the plate is it's super thick, and that is where in the industry we're kind of stuck in 2 different sides, because you either get something one way that has features you don't, or you sacrifice them on the other end. Can't wait till we can come together and have something a little bit better there. But all in all, not a deal breaker for me, right? I can't co-witness. I'm not too worried about that. I'm running an optic. I'm good to go. After that, I went ahead and mounted my light. I am using the TLR7 from Streamlight. Have no problem with it. It's a compact gun, compact light. It gets the job done for me. So I thought that was super cool. After I had the creature comforts, I had to swap the panels out. The panels to me were not aesthetically pleasing at all. I get what they were doing, but I did not like the color combination with the stainless steel slide and the black receiver and the black, white, and gray panels. Some people love it. My brother was like, yo, that looks awesome. Me, a little too much, a little too busy for me. So I went ahead and put the black panels on there. I do like the fact that they added that in there, right? Because not everybody likes one design. So now you've given me the option to swap it out and make it closer to what I like. Now, the panels themselves are not something I'm going to get rid of. I do like that I can use them. So I'll probably get them silicone carbided in the event I want to run this in a performance match to go ahead and see how much I like it. The grip panels themselves are slightly slick. They're not as textured as I would like them to be, but hopefully they can get some aftermarket support so you can really dive in and add to that. Besides that, let's start looking at some of the other features in the gun. Let's talk about the slide. Stainless steel slide has all the serrations you can ask for. Front serrations, rear serrations, top serrations, and a window cut. That is all perfect. Most people like that. And that does add to the aesthetic of the gun. Unfortunately, the front serrations are not as textured as I would like them to be. They're not as aggressive. They're kind of slick. Not slick to where you have no use, because I have had guns and slides before where you go ahead to pull it and there's no grip whatsoever. You actually have to apply it. You can do the same thing with the slick slide. They're not that bad, but they're not as grippy as they appear to be. So I would have liked to see them be a little bit more textured. I do like the window cut up top. I think that is really, really dope. The inside, they use a Gen 4, Gen 5 barrel and recoil guide system from the Glock. So those are interchangeable. So in a world, if you wanted to buy a pre-ported barrel, you could pop it in there and hope it works. Don't suggest that. I truly don't suggest that. If you guys want to go the porting route, go ahead and check out Tampa Gun Works. They are who I have been going to for ports, and they do an amazing job. Check those guys out. I'll leave a link below. That's who I would send this to port. Just me. Take my opinion, don't. That's what I'm saying. You buy a pre-ported one, you might run into complications. So that's what I would do. But I definitely like the window the window cut. I definitely like the serrations. I do wish they were a little bit more aggressive. Moving from top down, right? So now we're in the receiver. The receiver is metal. It's aluminum. We want that, right? That's that weight. The gun is weighing in at 2 pounds. Some of you guys may have heard that just now and was like, 2 pounds is heavy. The gun is a little chunky. See, on the chunkier side, it's a little heavy, but I have no issues with that, right? And that's all going to be in what you are comfortable with carrying. Home defense, the gun can fill a lot of roles, but it's a compact gun, so most people are going to be looking at it to carry. The weight is not a major issue for me. Some people want a lighter gun. I actually like the weight on this because it adds to the shootability, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. On the gun itself, on the right side of the gun, you have a textured area for your index finger to sit when your finger's not on the trigger. Love that. On the left side, you have a gas pedal or a shelf that is also textured. Also love that. These are good details. They are fundamental details that people want, because when you're applying fundamentals to guns, these are things that aid in shooting it better. I do love how they textured the gas pedal, because some people got sweaty hands out there and it'll slip off. Mine don't. I don't have sweaty hands, but they thought about you guys. Keep that in mind. If you're a left-handed shooter, I don't think you'll like it too much, because now the gas pedal is on the opposite side. It's on the left side. You're a left-handed shooter, you want that on the opposite side, but you have the texture there, so you can kind of be happy. It would be cool to see them making a left-handed variant for the lefties out there, but you know, it is what it is. They're appeasing to the masses. Most people are right-handed. It is what it is. Moving back from there, we look at the trigger. The trigger is actually really nice in my opinion. It is like a hybrid between a flat trigger and a curve, because there's a little curve at the bottom. It's not completely flat. It's coming in at right under 4 pounds on my meter. The website quotes 4.5 pounds, but it feels really good. There still is a very distinct wall, which I like. Some people want almost no wall at all. I'm not a fan of that. I like getting to a point, because when I prep my trigger, I know this is the point of no return. Anything more from here, it's going bang. So I like the way the trigger feels. I was able to actually get really good follow-up shots with no issues at all, and I didn't feel like I could outrun the trigger. I felt like it was on par with my skill. So I thought that was really nice. Moving back from there, like I mentioned, the panels, I have the all black panels in. Putting them in was easy. There was no issues there. I like that feature. Moving back from there, the actual grip angle. They have almost like a modified palm swell, not on the left and right, but on the tang, where the cutout is a little bit deeper in, and the back piece kind of pushes into the back area of your palm where your thumb is at. And I like that feature. It feels really good in my opinion. So I had no issues with that. So mechanically, the gun is solid. Now let's talk about when you take it apart. When you take the slide off, you notice that the rails the slide sits on are actually pretty high. When you look at a Glock, right, because it's the closest thing to compare it to, the rails on the Glock are kind of halfway back on the receiver and forward in front of the rear of the slide, or the rear of the receiver. On here, it starts high and it goes all the way back to about where the trigger starts. That's a pretty big design change. I'm telling you that because you can't just take a regular Glock slide and slap it on there. It's not going to work. This is actually closer in design to the CZ P10 series. If you've ever taken those apart, they look real similar. I don't want to say Glock and CZ had a baby and here you go, because this would be way more Glock. But the design is very similar to that. So no, you can't just take a Glock slide, put it on there. What the interchangeable features with a Glock are going to be your barrel, your recoil system, Gen 4, Gen 5, and the magazines. That's where you have compatibility swaps at. So understand that. Let's dive into the shootability a little bit. The gun shoots very nice in my opinion, okay? I talk about shootability, but it's going to be your experience and your skill level is going to vary based on how you shoot the gun. That 2 pounds in weight definitely aids in the recoil management and the impulse. It helps the gun settle back to zero a lot faster in my opinion. It doesn't feel oversprung like a lot of the guns in the market today, but it did run really well with the specific ammo I'm running. I run 135 grain ammo. Shout out to Zero Ammo. It's one of my ammo sponsors. That's what I run in competition. I always have that on tap. It's a bulk. It is a very specific round and it's really barely getting at the gun. It's a lot slower, but it cycled it with no problems. So I thought that was a really good feature. I think that adds to the reliability. The goal is to test more and put other ammo types through the gun so I can make sure that it runs those reliably as well. Speaking of round count, I got about 350 rounds through the gun, had no issues, so I'm happy to report that. 350 is right under the break-in period of 500, but you know, I had no issues with that there, so I'm pleased with it. The recoil management impulse, because of the weight, is solid. The trigger's good. The gun is nice. It shoots really well. I'm ripping it. I like the gun. All right. I think the only setback could be the weight for some people, but aside that, I don't think there's any issues with it. The gun's coming in right at $549, which is right at the cost of a Glock, right around there. So you're actually getting more with this than you would with the Glock. You're getting an all-metal gun, you're getting an optics cut, a 1913 rail, all the accoutrements, all the extras that you would typically pay for right out the box. So I definitely think this is a gun you should look into if you're a collector or you're kind of on a budget and you want everything, you want to get all the games without spending too much. I think this gun might be for you. So that's all I have for you guys. Let me know what you think. You guys think the gun is solid or do you think I'm passing on it? Go ahead, comment below. If you guys ever have any questions, please feel free to ask them. You guys can find me on my social medias. I'm on Instagram at Parallel Defense, or you can just comment here. I'm more than welcome or more than willing to chat with you guys. If you want to dive into conversations more, I have started a Discord. On the Discord, we are going to have conversations just about gun stuff. So anything in the space you guys can ask, either myself or someone experienced in that realm will be available to help and talk you through that. But again, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. I appreciate all the love. Y'all have a good one.